The word efficiency is a funny old term in the sport of cycling. Ask some coaches and they'll tell you to try and pedal in circles to become more efficient. Ask others and they'll tell you that there is little or no scientific backing for that.
Regardless though, there are certain types of things you can do to help you ride further, ride faster and with less effort. So here are 3 training sessions you can try to make you more efficient.
A good solid tempo session is really potent and can do as much for your endurance as a long steady endurance ride. It will still be purely aerobic as an effort, but it's very testing at the same time. Now to do it, just head out and warm up for around about 10 minutes, then you can get straight into the tempo. In terms of effort, well, if you're using a heart rate monitor, you want to do the first 10 to 15 minutes, gradually getting it up to around about 90% of your threshold heart rate. People with power meters, where you can go straight into around about 90% of your FTP or functional threshold power. If you're going purely on feeling, well, the first 10 to 15 minutes should feel pretty comfortable, and after that you'll be starting to feel like it's sort of 7, maybe 8 out of 10 efforts.
Then it's just a case of holding it for the duration. Now if you're just starting out, somewhere between 45 minutes to an hour is probably more than enough, but the fitter you get, the longer you can hold it for. So 2, potentially even 3 hours. Now, as a side benefit, you'll be burning a lot of calories. Many pros, for example, use just these sessions to lose loads of weight before the season. But do remember though, you'll need to fuel them correctly, otherwise you'll be running out and blowing your doors before you finish the session. In terms of how many times you can do these, 2, maybe even 3 times a week, and you'll see the benefits really quickly. Pedaling in circles hasn't ever been proven to help your efficiency, but there's a lot of evidence to say that sitting in the saddle rather than standing on the pedals really does. So if you're the kind of rider that likes to get out of the saddle as soon as the road rises, well, maybe you should try this.
Now this is something that I really suffered from in the early parts of my career when I was a mountain bike rider. I noticed that when the conditions were muddy, I wouldn't do as well because of my tendency to want to get out of the saddle. So after a little bit of thought, I spent the following off season making sure that I stayed seated in training as much as I possibly could. So uphill, downhill, out of corners, even throughout group rides, I immediately noticed the difference the following season.
So why not give it a try yourself? Spend a month or so concentrating on staying in the saddle, maybe even working specifically on some tempo sessions, doing just that. And then you can assess just how much of a benefit it's had on your riding.
Much of your ability to ride your bike for hours on end is your body's ability to use fat as a source of fuel. All of us have only got a limited supply of glycogen to use, so it makes sense to train your body to use your fat reserves, of which all of us, even us, have got plenty.
Yeah, a lot of pros rely really heavily on this following technique. Heading out the door after a good night's sleep with only a strong espresso to fuel them and kickstart their metabolism. No milk or sugar allowed.
Now you want to take things fairly easy when you start this sort of training, perhaps just a 15 or 20 minute indoor trainer session going very, very easy. However, over time you might be surprised at just how far you can ride having not eaten anything for the previous 12 hours. You want to go pretty careful with this sort of training though. We recommend doing maybe 1 up to 2 sessions per week. We mentioned in session number 1, the tempo session, that you can lose an enormous amount of weight when you're doing it. And actually, this can be one of the biggest factors when it comes to becoming more efficient.
That's right, power to weight ratio is really, really important in cycling. So nothing really helps your efficiency more than carrying around less kilos with you when you're going up some big hills. So be sensible, of course, but shedding a little bit of weight may well pay dividends far more than you'd think. When are you going to diet, Dan?
Certainly not after this ride. Have you got a Mars bar?
So 4 things that could help to improve your efficiency while cycling. Firstly, experiment with tempo training. Secondly, climb seated, not out of the saddle.
Yeah, also you can go out in a fasted state. And finally, you can lose a little bit of weight. It only needs to be a kilogram. You'd be surprised how much difference that will make if you live in a place where there's a lot of climbing. For more training videos, just click on that.
And to follow GCN, click on Dan, if you really want to.